When the time is right, you'll know. I'm Rob Murgatroyd, and I can hear the voice inside your head from here. You're ready for your next chapter, but you're unclear on what that looks like and how to make it happen. On the Next Chapter podcast, you'll be inspired to let go of your current identity and shift into a brand new chapter of your life that makes you feel alive. The struggles you're facing now will be substantiated by success stories that'll feel like your own. You'll walk away with tangible strategies backed by experiential evidence that will bring your next chapter to life. Your next chapter is achievable, and it's closer than you think. Well. Okay, so here's what I decided to do. I am not loving the idea of doing these solo episodes from the house because I tend to write up a script, almost read the script. I go into a weird announcer voice and I'm presenting, and I'm not really sharing the information with you the way I want to share the information with you, the way I would talk to somebody if I was out to dinner with them. And I have to get away. I have to put myself in the environment that's going to allow me to do that. And so one of the ways that I do that is on these double shot episodes. I call them double shot because I do a double shot of espresso and then I just go for a walk. And it forces me to just talk with you while I'm walking. So that's what we're going to do. That's how I'm going to do these solo episodes, whenever I can. Okay. So first, let me tell you where we are, and then I'm going to tell you what I want to talk to you about today. We are in a place called Via Reggio, and it's next to, nobody really knows where or has ever heard of Via Reggio, but some people have heard of Forte dei Marmi. Andrea Bocelli made it famous because that's where he lives. It's beautiful. It's like a coastal town that's just about an hour outside of Florence. Why are we here? We're here because the largest carnival, or the largest, Carnivale is what they call it, festival, I think in Europe, is here. Big floats and stuff. So it's the ending of, carnival. Something interesting about that word, carne means meat, and vale means stop. So it's when you stop eating meat for Lent. Like Fat Tuesday is another example of that. So when you see a carnival, that's why it's called a carnival. I thought that was interesting. All right. I want to talk to you about epigenetics. What the fuck is epigenetics, right? Like, why are we even talking about epigenetics? What does that have to do with your next chapter? I think it actually has a lot to do with it, and I'll tell you why. So first, let me give you a little bit of a background on why I'm even talking about this. My friends and I were walking through the streets of Florence, and we stopped to get some gelato. And the girls behind the counter were just like so happy, And I was like, I looked at him. We started to laugh because they were just like so overtly happy. I was like, it's crazy, man. Like they probably make. I think I've read that the average person in a restaurant makes around $2,000 a month, maybe 2,400 tops, but it's not a lot. They get no tips because people in Europe don't tip, but they're all incredibly happy. I mean, like genuinely happy, and it's not like these are people that like have nothing in their life and they're just grateful to be alive. It's not like that. Like there's a deep, soulful happiness. They dress beautifully, they laugh, they flirt with each other. There's just this depth of joy. And I asked him, I was like, why do you think this is? And he said, it's simple. It's epigenetics. I said, okay, tell me more. What does that mean? He said, okay, so you've got genes, you got a DNA sequence, and there are certain aspects of DNA that can be turned on or off based on certain environments. I was like, I thought genes were just fixed. He said, no, they're not fixed. They change based on your environment. That's why identical twins with the same DNA sequence connect differently in different environments. And I was like, huh, Okay, so how does that, explain to me how that, what makes them happy? He said, well, you have to look at the history. There was a Renaissance, and the Renaissance focused on something called humanism. And humanism is basically what it sounds like. It's valuing people and valuing life and valuing love and valuing all the things that come with love, right? Love of art, love of food, love of sex, love of like all that love stuff. And that brought about new arts and, the David in Florence and the most beautiful architecture you've ever seen in the world. And so guess what happens? Those genes upregulated things like love. And so now they've had whatever it is since the Renaissance, close to 1,000 years of upregulation of those genes and downregulation of the other genes, that they are just in an environment physically, chemically, that's very different. And so they lean into happiness and love in a genetic way. I thought, wow, it's fucking really cool. Okay, so how do we apply that to life? Well, actually, if you give a Google to the word epigenetics, you can change your genes. I think Joe Dispenza, give him a Google too, is doing a phenomenal job of helping people to be able to do it. Like when I was thinking about, it's really interesting. When we were in LA and I was visualizing my next chapter, our next chapter as a family, I visualized walking on the cobblestone streets of Florence, right? Well, because your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, you actually start changing your DNA structure and you start upregulating those genes differently than where you're currently living. So it's a little woo-woo, but you get the idea. So so with all of that said, right, there's a lot, maybe it's more information than you want, but when you think about what you want to do, like this show is about one thing, helping people figure out what the hell they want to do next with their life. It's not just career, it's life. Like your fucking life. You get one life, you get one shot at this. Like, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to leave what you're currently doing with your life? Do you want to start something new? Do you not even want to work anymore? Do you want to figure out how much money it's going to cost you to live the life you're living? Like right now, I'm walking down the street in a place called Via Reggio, wherever the fuck that is, and I'm watching them set up for a carnival festival, which is one of the biggest in Europe. I'm only here because I visualized what I wanted my next chapter to be. So unless you take the time to gain clarity on what that is, it doesn't appear. So finding all these little ways in, like visualizing what the next one looks like, thinking about, epigenetics. And by the reason why I brought the subject up of epigenetics is I want you to think about how your environment affects how you think about things, or not only how you think about things, how chemically your body changes based on your environment. So if you grew up in Compton and you were around shootings all the time, well, guess where your genes are going to go? All those anger, you get the idea, right? So did I cover everything I wanted to cover? I think that's it. I think you get the idea of this. If this kind of stuff is resonating with you, let me know if you find it interesting. I'll give you more stuff like this. And if you like the format of me walking around just talking like this, it's not as clean. It's not as tight. And maybe it'll get better as time goes on, but it's honest. All right. That's it, everybody. The next step in your next chapter, rate and review this podcast. This is one small way to cause a ripple effect and help other people just like you move into their next chapter.